Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of her diplomatic shuttle, watching the Galactic Council station grow larger against the backdrop of swirling nebula clouds. The massive structure defied conventional architecture. Crystalline spires stretched in impossible directions, their surfaces refracting starlight in rainbow patterns. Each spire represented a different member species' architectural style, creating a structure that was both breathtaking and slightly unsettling in its alien beauty. "Final approach, Ambassador," her pilot announced. "The Council has assigned us docking port 147. Apparently, that's significant. It's the number of current member species." Sarah straightened her formal diplomatic attire, a blend of traditional Earth formal wear and modern space-age materials. The silver-threaded jacket caught the light like the station's spires, a deliberate choice to show humanity's readiness to join the galactic community. After centuries of observation, the Council had finally extended an invitation to Earth. The docking procedure was flawless, handled by the station's automated systems. As the airlock cycled, Sarah heard the subtle shifts in pressure and atmosphere that indicated the station was adjusting its environment to Earth-normal conditions. A small but meaningful gesture of welcome. The receiving chamber was a kaleidoscope of alien life. Representatives from dozens of species lined the curved walls, some humanoid, others completely outside Earth's biological framework. A floating cloud of prismatic crystals hovered near a being that seemed to be made entirely of living metal. Sarah's universal translator hummed as it processed the overlapping languages. A tall, elegant being with iridescent scales stepped forward. "Ambassador Chen, I am First Speaker Telex. Welcome to the heart of civilization." The translator rendered their voice in smooth, cultured tones. "We have waited long to welcome humanity to this chamber." Sarah bowed precisely 15 degrees, the exact angle her briefing had specified for greeting a first speaker. "The honor is ours, First Speaker. Earth has much to learn from the Council's wisdom." "Indeed." Telex gestured with a graceful limb. "Please, observe today's session. Understanding our procedures is the first step toward full membership." The main chamber was vast, its ceiling lost in the shadows far above. Thousands of seats arranged in concentric circles faced a central platform that glowed with soft light. Sarah's assigned observation pod floated at the outer edge, providing a perfect view of the proceedings. The first item on the agenda made her blink in surprise. The Council was discussing trade routes through the Centauri sector. Specifically, a proposal to adjust the maximum permitted speed in a particular lane by 0.01 light-years per standard unit. This proposal, a representative that appeared to be a sentient gas cloud announced, builds upon the discussion begun in session 47,291b, held 11 standard cycles ago. After careful consideration of subparagraph 7.3 regarding velocity adjustments in developed sectors, Sarah checked her tablet. This particular discussion had begun 12 years ago. Her eyes widened as she scrolled through the history. Thousands of sessions, millions of words, all about a minor adjustment to a single trade route. A priority message flashed across her screen. Another border colony had gone silent. The 7th this month. The Nexer Empire's expansion continued unchecked, while the Council meticulously debated traffic regulations. "Ambassador," an aide's whispered voice in her earpiece, "we're receiving reports from the frontier. The Nexer have been spotted near the Pleiades trading post." Sarah watched as a representative proposed forming a subcommittee to study the implications of the speed adjustment on local space-time curvature. The study would take approximately 5 years. In that moment, observing the endless dance of procedure and protocol, Sarah Chen made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Humanity couldn't afford to wait decades for action. There had to be a better way. She began composing a message to Earth's Security Council. Its first line read, "Recommend immediate implementation of Protocol Omega. Traditional diplomacy is not the answer." 3 months of careful observation had taught Sarah Chen more about the Galactic Council than any briefing ever could. She sat in her observation pod, watching the latest emergency session with growing frustration. The holographic display at the chamber center showed another colony world going dark, its signal joining the constellation of silent points that marked the Nexer Empire's advance. The chair recognizes the honorable representative from the Zix Collective. First Speaker Talax announced. The crystalline being that rose to speak sparkled under the chamber's lights. We propose a strongly worded statement of disapproval. The Zix representative chimed, their crystalline form vibrating with each word. Following the guidelines established in the Crisis Response Protocol of Cycle 47,392, Section 12, Subsection C. Sarah's tablet quietly updated. 3 more refugee ships had arrived at the Pleiades trading post. The Nexar weren't waiting for strongly worded statements. Her earpiece crackled. Ambassador, her aide whispered, Earth Security Council is requesting your assessment. The Nexar fleet's movement suggests they'll reach human space within 6 months. 6 months. Sarah looked around the council chamber, calculating. At their current pace, they'd still be debating the proper formatting of their disapproval when the Nexar reached Earth's doorstep. The breaking point came during hour 14 of the emergency session. A Malorian representative, their bioluminescent tendrils pulsing with agitation, was arguing about the specific shade of red to use in the warning message's header. Sarah stood up. Her observation pod drifted forward, a movement so unexpected that the chamber fell silent. Even after 3 months, she'd never interrupted a session. No observer had. Ambassador Chen. First Speaker Talax's voice carried a note of surprise. You have not been recognized by the chair. No, Sarah agreed, her voice clear in the sudden quiet. I haven't, and I won't be seeking recognition again. She took a deep breath, knowing her next words would reshape the galaxy. Earth formally declines membership in the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted. Hundreds of species began speaking at once, their voices creating a cacophony that overwhelmed the translation systems. Sarah continued, her words cutting through the chaos. In the 3 months I've observed this council, 16 colony worlds have fallen to the Nexer Empire. 8 species have lost their homes. Millions of refugees drift between the stars. And this council's response. She gestured to the holographic display. A debate about message formatting. This is unprecedented. A senior member shouted. There are procedures for expressing concerns. Yes, there are, Sarah agreed. And in roughly 15 years, those procedures might actually lead to action. Earth doesn't have 15 years. None of us do. She reached into her pocket and withdrew a small device, a standard data crystal containing Earth's formal membership application. With deliberate care, she placed it on her pod's control panel. Humanity rejects these chambers. We reject this endless dance of procedure and protocol. While you debate the proper way to express concern, we will act. First Speaker Talax raised all 4 hands for silence. Ambassador Chen, please consider the implications, without the Council's guidance and protection. Protection. Sarah's laugh held no humor. Ask the 16 fallen worlds about your protection. No, First Speaker. Earth chooses a different path. Her pod began moving backward, returning to its dock. As she prepared to leave the chamber for the last time, Sarah turned back to the assembled representatives. We will handle the Nexer situation ourselves. You're welcome to watch. Though I suspect you'll need to form a committee to decide the proper way to do that. The silence that followed her exit was broken only by the soft chime of her data crystal, still sitting on the pod's control panel, being automatically filed and archived. Application ID number 34,291. Status: withdrawn. In her quarters, Sarah began composing messages to Earth's network of unofficial contacts throughout the galaxy. The subject line read, Operation Handshake is now active. Forget the rules. Let's get to work. Captain Maya Rodriguez watched the alien family approach her food cart, their bioluminescent tentacles swaying with curiosity. Her small stand, nestled in the corner of Outpost Sigma's marketplace, didn't look like a revolution in interstellar diplomacy. That was precisely the point. "What's that smell?" The translator rendered their clicks and whistles into curious basic. The younger one's tentacles glowed brighter, drawn to the sizzling griddle. "Tacos al pastor," Maya answered, sliding another piece of seasoned protein onto the rotating spit. "And Earth specialty. Would you like to try some?" Behind her friendly smile lay careful calculation. This particular family belonged to the Meridian species, master shipwrights whose yards sat conveniently close to 3 major Nexar supply routes. As she prepared their food, she casually mentioned, "You know, we have a weekly gathering for local food enthusiasts. Many of your neighbors attend." Operation Handshake was proceeding exactly as Sarah Chen had envisioned. Across 50 frontier worlds, similar scenes played out. Art galleries showcased Earth paintings alongside alien works. Public parks hosted cultural exchange festivals that doubled as strategic planning sessions. Every food cart, craft fair, and dance performance carried encrypted communications hidden in plain sight. In her hidden command center aboard the station, Sarah reviewed the latest reports. The Meridians weren't the only ones responding to humanity's unconventional approach. 3 other species had already signed what they called friendship agreements, unofficial pacts that included shared defense protocols and intelligence sharing, all wrapped in the guise of cultural exchange programs. "Update from Station Beta," her aide announced. The Calaxian meditation retreat was a success. 12 species attended the Inner Peace workshops. Sarah smiled. Those workshops had included detailed discussions of Nexar fleet movements and defensive strategies, all conducted between meditation sessions and tea ceremonies. No formal treaties, no endless debates, just practical solutions shared over cups of calming herbal blends. "Ambassador Chen," a voice called from her doorway. Sarah turned to find Kex, a representative of the Arcturian Mining Guild. The insectoid alien's antennae twitched with excitement. "That Earth entertainment program you shared, Cooking Across the Cosmos, has gained quite a following in our sectors." "I'm glad to hear that," Sarah replied. The cooking show, featuring human chefs attempting to create dishes from alien cuisines, was more than entertainment. Each episode contained coded information about resource distribution and supply line coordination. A priority alert flashed across her screen. The Nexar had begun moves against another border world. But this time, something was different. "They're pulling back," her tactical officer reported with surprise. "The local defense fleet, it's using modified Earth tactics. Those friendly sports competitions we've been organizing actually worked." Sarah watched the tactical display as the Nexar forces retreated, confused by the unexpected resistance. The defending ships moved in patterns practiced during what they'd called recreational zero-gravity dance classes. In the station's marketplace, Maya served another round of tacos to her growing crowd of alien customers. Her cart's location offered a perfect view of the docking bays, where ships from a dozen species now displayed small Earth flags alongside their own insignias, markers identifying them as part of the growing cultural exchange network. "More meetings today?" her assistant asked quietly, noting the increasing number of aliens wearing Earth-style friendship bracelets, each one a sophisticated communications device. "The cooking class at 1800 hours, Maya confirmed. "We're teaching them to make pella while discussing patrol schedules. The art appreciation session at 2000 hours will cover Renaissance paintings and emergency response protocols." Above them, Sarah Chen added another pin to her strategic map. Each marker represented not a military alliance or formal treaty, but something far more powerful. Connections forged over shared meals, common interests, and practical solutions to shared problems. The revolution wouldn't be fought with warships and proclamations. It would spread through food carts, art galleries, and dance classes, one relationship at a time. Professor James Chen, no relation to the now famous ambassador, stood before his classroom at the newly established Terran Institute of Cross-Cultural Studies. His students represented 17 different species, their varied forms filling the adaptable learning spaces designed to accommodate everything from crystalline beings to methane breathers. Today's discussion, he began, gesturing to the holographic display, focuses on the historical significance of Earth's space exploration missions. Please note how early satellites led to communications networks that the lesson's official description was perfectly innocent. The actual content, discussing how small exploration vessels could map Nexar fleet movements while appearing to be simple research missions, was proving invaluable to their allies. A quiet chime interrupted his lecture. The classroom's entrance dilated to admit a council observer, their chrome-plated exoskeleton gleaming under the lights. James didn't miss a beat, smoothly transitioning to the planned cover topic. And this brings us to the cultural impact of space photography. The Earthrise image, taken during the Apollo missions, changed how humanity viewed their homeworld. The observer departed after 15 minutes, satisfied that the Terran Institute was merely another example of humanity's peculiar obsession with sharing knowledge. They failed to notice how the students' tablets contained dual displays, one showing the official lecture notes, the other displaying tactical analysis of Nexar weak points. Across the station, Sarah Chen was meeting with her expanding network of coordinators. The holographic map before them showed hundreds of points of light, each representing a human cultural center in alien space. The Arcturian Cooking Festival was particularly successful, reported Maya Rodriguez, now promoted to Cultural Exchange Director. 3 more mining guilds have joined our resource-sharing network. They're calling it the Taste of Earth Trading Coalition. Sarah nodded, watching as new connections formed between the lights on her map. What had begun as scattered outposts was becoming an intricate web of cooperation. The Council's observers kept reporting that humanity was merely spreading their culture in a disorganized fashion. They didn't understand that the chaos was the system. Update from the university program. James Chen's voice came through the secure channel. Our latest graduates have established 30 new research outposts along the Nexar border. The Council believes they're conducting stellar phenomenon studies. Those outposts, staffed by mixed crews of humans and their alien allies, formed a sophisticated early warning network. But instead of military facilities, they appeared to be nothing more than academic research stations, complete with regular publications about space weather and astronomical observations. A junior aide burst into the room, their expression excited. "Ambassador, you need to see this. The Meridian shipyards. They're launching a new design." The display shifted to show a massive construction dock. The vessel taking shape within it followed no known council or Nexar pattern. Instead, it incorporated elements of human design philosophy, blended with Meridian engineering. A fusion of styles that the rigid council protocols would never have permitted. "They're calling it a cultural exchange vessel," the aide reported. "Officially, it's a mobile art gallery and concert hall. Unofficially, it's a warship," Sarah finished, noting the cleverly disguised weapon ports and reinforced hull. But one that the Nexar won't recognize as such until it's too late. The Council's latest report sat on her desk, dismissing humanity's activities as chaotic and unfocused cultural contamination. Sarah allowed herself a small smile as she watched another dozen points of light appear on her map. New Earth-style cafes, art galleries, and educational centers opening across the frontier. Let them think it was chaos. The chaos was the point. Every shared meal, every cultural festival, every academic exchange wove another strand in humanity's growing web of allies. Not bound by treaties and protocols, but connected by something far stronger: understanding, trust, and common cause. The revolution continued, hidden in plain sight, spreading not through formal channels, but through the simple, powerful act of people coming together to share their stories, their food, and their determination to build a better future. The Nexar fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their black ships arranging themselves in the precise geometric patterns that had brought them victory across dozens of star systems. Admiral Kresh of the Nexar Empire watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The border world Centauri Prime lay before them, seemingly defenseless. "Standard conquest protocol," Kresh commanded, their chitinous mandibles clicking. "Commence the intimidation broadcast." The lead ship's communications array powered up, ready to transmit the usual message of inevitable defeat and demands for surrender. Instead, their sensors detected something unexpected. Music. Earth music, specifically. Something called rock and roll was broadcasting on all frequencies, accompanied by what appeared to be cooking show transmissions and documentary programs about Earth's ancient civilizations. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, confusion evident in their harmonics, "we're detecting unusual movement patterns from the local defense forces. On the display, ships of various designs. Some he recognized, others completely foreign, were moving in seemingly random patterns. They ignored standard military formations, instead flowing like some strange dance. The movements made no tactical sense, yet somehow they were managing to evade his fleet's targeting systems." In her command center aboard the cultural exchange vessel Magellan, Sarah Chen watched the Nexer fleet's confusion with satisfaction. Time to show them what those dance classes were really about. She transmitted to her allied commanders. The response was immediate. Dozens of ships, their crews trained in Earth's ceremonial space maneuvers, actually inspired by Earth's historical guerrilla warfare tactics, began their carefully choreographed chaos. Each vessel moved according to patterns practiced during months of supposed cultural events. "The Meridian ships are in position," Maya Rodriguez reported from her tactical station. "Their new hybrid designs are performing exactly as the art appreciation simulations predicted." The Nexer fleet's perfect formations began to break down as they tried to track targets that refused to follow any recognized combat doctrine. Their attempts at communication were thoroughly disrupted by the continuing broadcast of Earth's most energetic music, carefully chosen frequencies interfering with their targeting systems. "Sir," the Nexer tactical officer's mandibles clattered in alarm. "3 of our supply ships just declared independence. They're requesting access to something called Netflix and asking about food delivery options." Admiral Kresh watched in growing horror as more disruption spread through their ranks. Ships that had received Earth's cultural broadcasts began breaking formation. Crews that had secretly been watching human entertainment programs and participating in online cultural exchanges were refusing orders. On the Magellan's bridge, Sarah received another surprising update. "Ambassador, the Nexer colony world of Theta 9 is broadcasting a response to our cooking show. They're sharing their own recipes and requesting trade negotiations." The Nexer admiral's next words were cut off by a transmission overriding their command frequency. The image that appeared on their screen showed a human cooking program, but the chef's cheerful description of fusion cuisine carried carefully encoded tactical data that the influenced Nexer crews immediately recognized. "This is impossible," Kresh chittered as another squadron declared their intention to defect. "We are the Nexer Empire. We do not succumb to cooking shows and dance music." But they were. Years of subtle cultural influence, masked as harmless entertainment and cultural exchange, had done what no military force could achieve. The rigid structure of the Nexer Empire was crumbling in the face of something they had no defense against: cultural connection. Sarah Chen sent a brief update to Earth's Security Council. "Operation Handshake Phase 5 complete. Nexer fleet neutralized through cultural integration rather than military confrontation. Requesting additional cooking show episodes and music playlists for Phase 6. As the Nexer fleet retreated in disarray, their formations shattered and their crews demanding access to more Earth culture, she allowed herself a small smile. The Council's observers would soon report that humanity had defeated a major Nexer offensive using nothing more dangerous than rock music and cooking shows. Sometimes the best weapons weren't weapons at all. The Council chamber hadn't changed in the months since Sarah Chen's dramatic exit. The same crystalline spires still stretched overhead. The same representatives still debated minute points of protocol. But today, something was different. The Trilaxian delegation, one of the Council's founding members, had requested an emergency session. High Speaker Vex of the Trilaxian Assembly rose from their hovering platform, their bioluminescent patterns shifting in what Sarah recognized as determination. She watched the proceedings from her office aboard the Magellan, having been invited to observe by the Trilaxians themselves. "Honorable Council," Vex began, their patterns pulsing with each word. "For 6,000 cycles, the Trilaxian Assembly has been proud to stand among the founding members of this august body. Today we must inform you of our withdrawal." The chamber erupted in chaos. First Speaker Talax's voice cut through the tumult. "Withdrawal? There are no procedures for withdrawal. The proper protocols for expressing dissatisfaction require." "With respect," Vex interrupted, their colors shifting to deep blue. "That is precisely why we must leave. While this council debated protocols, we watched humanity demonstrate a better way." The holographic displays activated, showing scenes from across the frontier. Human cooking classes where trade deals were casually negotiated between courses. Art galleries that doubled as strategic planning centers. Universities where students from dozens of species learn not just knowledge, but understanding. "The Terran Cooperative," Vex continued, "has accomplished more in months than this council has in decades. They stopped the Nexar advance, not through military might or diplomatic pressure, but by making connection more appealing than conquest." Sarah's tablet chimed with incoming data. 3 more council species had quietly signed up for Earth's cultural exchange program during Vex's speech. The revolution was accelerating. In the council chamber, a younger representative, their species' first time holding a council seat, stood up. "The Proxima Collective stands with the Trilaxian Assembly. We also withdraw to join the cooperative." "This is unprecedented," First Speaker Talax declared. "There must be order, structure, proper procedures." "Life isn't made of procedures," came a new voice. Commander Zara of the former Nexar Defense Fleet stepped onto the chamber floor, the first Nexar ever to address the council. "My people followed rigid protocols for millennia. Humanity showed us a different path." The commander's uniform bore both Nexar insignia and a small Earth flag. Around their neck hung what appeared to be a cooking competition medal, earned during the cultural exchanges that had led to their fleet's historic defection. "While you debated," Zara continued, "humans taught my people to cook, to dance, to share stories. They showed us that variety brings strength, that chaos can birth harmony." The Nexar Empire didn't fall to weapons. It was transformed by connection. Sarah watched as more representatives began to rise. Species that had been silent for centuries found their voices. The council's perfect order was dissolving, but something new was emerging from the chaos. Her tablet displayed a message from Earth's Security Council. Phase 7 authorized. "Proceed with Operation Welcome Home." Sarah smiled as she composed a response. The next stage would invite these newly independent species to Earth itself, not for formal diplomatic summits, but for the greatest cultural festival humanity had ever organized. In the council chamber, First Speaker Talax watched helplessly as centuries of careful protocol crumbled. "But without the council's guidance, without our structure, how will civilization survive?" High Speaker Vex's colors shifted to a gentle green. "Perhaps it's time to learn what humanity already knows. True civilization isn't built on rules and procedures. It's built on understanding, adaptation, and the courage to try new paths." Above the chamber, the first Trilaxian ships were already departing, their hulls proudly displaying the new symbol of the Terran Cooperative, Earth's circle of unity, surrounded by stars of all colors and sizes, dancing in joyful chaos. Supreme Commander Krell of the Nexar Empire stood at the viewport of their flagship, watching their once mighty armada drift in disarray. The tactical display showed the unthinkable. Half their fleet had declared independence, their crews more interested in human culture than military conquest. Another defection report. Supreme Commander, his aide announced, mandibles clicking nervously. "The 7th Battle Group is requesting cooking classes and something called movie night privileges." Krell's outer carapace darkened with frustration. How had it come to this? Their mighty empire, undone not by superior weapons or tactics, but by human entertainment and food delivery services. In her office aboard the Magellan, Sarah Chen reviewed the latest intelligence reports with a mixture of amusement and satisfaction. The holographic display showed thousands of former Nexar ships, their harsh angles now softened by artistic modifications, their crews engaged in cultural exchange rather than military drills. The latest statistics are in, Maya Rodriguez reported, trying to hide her smile. 87% of Nexar colonies now have at least one Earth-style cafe. Their most popular download request is still the complete collection of cooking competition shows. Sarah nodded, remembering how it had started. A single Nexar scout ship, intercepting a broadcast of Galaxy's Greatest Chef, had requested more episodes instead of attacking. From there, it had spread like wildfire through the rigid empire. Update from the research division. Professor James Chen's voice came through the comm. The Joint Human Nexar Engineering Team has completed their project. They're calling it the Harmony Drive. The display shifted to show a revolutionary new spacecraft engine. It combined Nexar precision with human creativity, producing a drive system that was both more efficient and more environmentally sustainable than anything either species had developed alone. Supreme Commander Krell received the report with disbelief. Our best engineers worked with humans to create this. Voluntarily. They say the breakthrough came during a shared meal, his aide explained. Something called fusion tacos inspired them to combine our technologies in new ways. The remaining loyal Nexar ships were gathering for what Krell had planned as a final, glorious last stand. Instead, they found themselves surrounded not by enemy warships, but by floating restaurants, mobile art galleries, and converted cultural exchange vessels. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human ships are broadcasting. They're inviting us to a food festival. Before Krell could respond, his command screen lit up with a transmission. Sarah Chen's face appeared, but she wasn't wearing military uniforms or displaying weapons. Instead, she stood in what appeared to be a kitchen. Supreme Commander, she began, your people have already chosen a new path. The only question is whether you'll join them in building something better than conquest. To emphasize her point, the screen split to show scenes from across former Nexar space. Their mighty warships now hosted zero-gravity dance competitions. Their military academies had become cultural learning centers. Their feared warriors were teaching humans their traditional art forms, while learning Earth's music in return. Krell's mandibles clicked thoughtfully as he watched a group of Nexar children playing Earth games with young humans, their natural chittering mixing with human laughter. The Council warned us about human chaos, he finally said. They didn't warn us it would be so appealing. Sarah's smile widened. That's because they never understood. We didn't want to destroy the Nexar Empire. Commander, we wanted to invite you to help us build something new. The tactical display updated one final time. Across Nexar space, the dark ships of war were being repainted in bright colors, transformed into vessels of culture and commerce. The mighty empire hadn't been defeated. It had been reimagined. Krell made his decision. Transmit to all remaining loyal forces, he commanded. The war is over. And request the coordinates of the nearest taco truck. I believe it's time I tried this fusion cuisine myself. 1 year after Sarah Chen walked out of the council chamber, she stood in the same spot, observing how everything had changed. The crystalline spires remained, but now they housed something different. Where once there were endless debate chambers, now there were gathering spaces, interactive cultural exhibits, and yes, even a food court featuring cuisine from 100 worlds. Ambassador Chen, first speaker Telak's approach, their scales shimmering with new patterns learned from human art. The Council's Reformation Committee has completed its work. Would you care to review our proposals? Sarah accepted the data tablet, noting with amusement that it was decorated with Earth cat stickers. Apparently, pictures of Earth pets had become a galaxy-wide sensation. The document's title read, Guidelines for practical cooperation and cultural integration. Guidelines. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Not rules and procedures. We have learned much from humanity's approach, Telex admitted. Rigid structures break under pressure. Flexible networks adapt and grow stronger. The station's central plaza, once reserved for formal diplomatic ceremonies, now hosted what humans would recognize as a bustling night market. Former Nexar warriors sampled Earth street food while teaching young humans their traditional battle songs, now adapted into popular dance music. Trilaxian artists collaborated with human designers, creating installations that merged their styles into something entirely new. Latest statistics. Ambassador Maya Rodriguez appeared, her uniform now bearing both Earth insignia and symbols from a dozen allied species. The Terran Cooperative has expanded to include 312 worlds. The new combined fleet has adopted Earth's space shanties as official operational communications. Sarah walked through the transformed station, remembering her first day here, where she had once seen stagnation. Now she saw life. A group of alien children played a game that mixed Earth hopscotch with Meridian zero-gravity principles. In a nearby classroom, a former Nexar commander taught a cooking class, their mandibles clicking excitedly as they explained the importance of proper spice balance. The council archives are ready, Professor James Chen called from a doorway. They're waiting for your final entry. The archive chamber had been modernized, its ancient data crystals now supplemented with human-style interactive displays. Sarah placed her hand on the recording panel, considering her words carefully. 1 year ago, she began, humanity rejected traditional diplomacy. We chose chaos over order, connection over protocol, understanding over regulation. The result wasn't the collapse of civilization, as the Council feared. Instead, it was a renaissance. The display showed scenes from across the galaxy. Earth universities filled with alien students. Distant worlds hosting fusion festivals that blended dozens of cultures. The former Nexar Empire, its worlds now centers of art and innovation. Their feared warships transformed into exploration vessels and mobile cultural centers. The true strength of civilization, Sarah continued, isn't found in rules or procedures. It's found in the spaces between, in shared meals and stories, in mixed traditions and new ideas, in the beautiful chaos of different species learning to dance together. She paused, watching through the archive chamber's window as a human street performer taught a group of alien children to juggle. The Council warned that humanity would bring chaos to the galaxy. They were right. But they never understood that chaos, properly embraced, creates not disorder, but new forms of harmony. The galaxy doesn't need a central authority imposing order. It needs a million small connections, weaving all our species together into something greater than the sum of its parts. Above the station, ships of all designs moved in an intricate dance, their paths no longer bound by rigid protocols, but flowing in natural harmony. Each vessel's hull bore the new symbol of their united galaxy, a spiral of stars, arranged not in perfect patterns, but in beautiful, organized chaos. The age of rigid diplomacy is over, Sarah concluded her recording. The age of connection has begun, and we're all just getting started.